Did you know that about 21 million Americans struggle with depression? Out of that 21 million, about 17% fall in between the ages of 18 and 25. Well, today I want to take some time and briefly talk about what depression is, but more importantly, share 5 practical ways on how to get out of a depressive episode when you find yourself in one. Now, I want to make a quick but important note. This video is not to replace any kind of professional help. This video is not to diagnose you. This video is simply just to provide helpful tools and practical tools if you find yourself struggling. If you are struggling with depression, please be sure to reach out to a professional. Now, let's dive in. Okay, let's first talk about what depression actually is. Now, there are multiple forms of depression found in the DSM-5, but today we're going to focus on just the basic and generic description of depression. In later videos, we're going to dive into the different types of depression people struggle with, but today we're going to stick with the basics. So, according to the American Psychiatric Association, they define depression as the following: a common serious medical illness that negatively affects how we feel, the way we think, and how we act. It causes feelings of sadness and or a loss of interest in activities that you once enjoyed. So there are common symptoms that are found within depression. Typically, when struggling with symptoms of depression, in order to be officially diagnosed, these symptoms have to have been present about 2 weeks or longer, and there has to be multiple symptoms all at once. And there typically has to be more than one symptom happening. But the biggest identifier is going to be, are these symptoms impacting your daily ability to function? So we're going to talk about symptom number 1, which is feelings of sadness or depressed mood. Now, I do need to clarify that when we are struggling with sadness, that is not going to always mean we are struggling with depression. But one of the key symptoms of depression is feeling sad. Symptom number 2 is going to be a loss of interest of the things that we once enjoyed. And this is a big one. So let's say, for example, you enjoyed going out and hanging out with friends, or you once enjoyed playing your sport. What depression will do is it will create a feeling of disconnect from the things that once brought us feelings of happiness or joy. Symptom number 3. Changes in appetite. So whether this is now we are starting to notice our body gain weight due to food becoming a comfort and us indulging in food, or the opposite where we're starting to lose weight drastically because now we are not feeling hungry and we are becoming restrictive with our food. Symptom number 4 is trouble with sleeping. So you're again either going to find yourself sleeping way too much but not feeling rested, or you're going to find yourself just feeling restless and not even sleeping at all. Symptom number 5 is a loss of energy and increased feeling of fatigue. And again, this doesn't mean when you're feeling tired, all of a sudden you're depressed, or you've been running and going and you're just physically tired, which is normal, so therefore you are depressed. This is just one of the symptoms of depression, is the feeling of tiredness and increased fatigue. And sometimes the feelings of tiredness and increased fatigue is even just us laying around, but we still feel tired and fatigued. It's like we can't catch up on feeling rested. Symptom number 6, there's an increase in purposeless physical activity. So what that simply means is constant pacing or an inability just to sit still. And along with that symptom, there are signs of slowed movement and speech. Symptom number 7 that's common with depression is the feeling of worthlessness or constant feeling of guilt. Again, when we have moments of feeling worthless or when we have moments of feeling guilt, that does not always equate to being depressed or struggling with depression, but it is a sign of depression. Symptom number 8 is difficulty in concentrating and making decisions. And then the last symptom of depression is thoughts of taking your own life. If you're experiencing any of those symptoms, this video is again not to diagnose you and not to replace any kind of professional help for you. Please be sure to reach out to a professional, a mentor, or somebody, and let them know that you are feeling these things. Now that we've covered the basics, and I mean the basics, that is not in depth at all, of depression, I want to give you guys 5 practical ways on how to get out of a depressive episode if you find yourself in one, or if you know somebody else who's in one, maybe this can be a helpful resource for them. Tip number 1, surround yourself in healthy community. Depression is one of the most isolating things that we can experience. When somebody is struggling with depression, it will often create feelings of isolation, and it will create this narrative that nobody understands what I'm going through, or nobody wants to know what I'm going through, or I don't need to share what I'm going through. And slowly but surely, what will happen is we will start to disconnect from those around us. But when we are intentional about surrounding ourselves with healthy community, it will make a huge difference in how we feel. There are Harvard researchers that have shown a correlation between healthy and good community and our personal happiness and life satisfaction. So again, tip number 1, surround yourself in healthy community. Tip number 2, try mindfulness. Now, you're probably thinking, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness, simply put, is the ability to be still and be aware and acknowledge what's happening around you without any judgment or feelings of guilt or shame. The art of just being aware and being present. With depression, rumination and negative thought patterns are very common, and what mindfulness can help do is recenter and refocus those thoughts and stop the rumination from getting us into a really dark place. There has been research out there that has shown that mindfulness also has the ability to shift some things in our brain that will again help the negative thoughts and the feelings of depression weaken. Now you're probably thinking, how on earth do I practice mindfulness? What does that look like? Well, a couple ways to practice mindfulness is by journaling. Another way is through meditation, and this is simply allowing ourselves quiet time and allow ourselves to recognize the thoughts and recognize that we have the power to release them or to hold on to them. Another practical way could be through drawing. That's a great way to practice mindfulness as well. So again, tip number 2, implement or try mindfulness. Tip number 3, implementing healthier sleep and eating patterns and routine. So working on prioritizing sleep. So again, this will take some discipline and intentionality, but maybe at night you set your alarm for, let's say, 10 p.m. and every night at 10 p.m. when that alarm goes off, you get off any kind of social media or electronics, and you maybe implement a nighttime routine, whether that's taking care of your face, doing some skincare, whether that's taking a bath, whether that's just training your body to rest in bed, reading a book, or something along those lines. But prioritizing sleep is going to be a game changer when it comes to feelings of depression. Along with creating healthier sleep patterns, it's also important to create healthier eating patterns. Along with the healthier sleep patterns, implementing healthier eating patterns has been shown and proven to improve our mental and emotional health, especially with depression. Research has shown over and over again that there is power in what we are eating. Oftentimes when we are struggling with depression or anxiety, we will go to comfort food, we'll call it. So a lot of processed food, a lot of sugars, a lot of things that aren't helping our feelings of depression, but they are keeping us actually stuck in our depression. So learning to prioritize and be intentional with foods that are high in maybe omega-3 fatty acids or greens or fiber or antioxidants, focusing and prioritizing food with those key ingredients have been proven over and over again to better our mental health and decrease feelings of depression. And so all that to say, tip number 3 is implement healthier sleep and eating patterns. Tip number 4, which I know you guys have heard it before, I've said it before in other videos, but that is move your body. You see, with exercise, it releases 2 main brain chemicals that help with depression. The first one being endorphins, and that typically is known as a mood booster, or it's referred to as a natural high. The second thing it releases is called dopamine, and dopamine is commonly referred to as the feel-good chemical in our brain. And with exercise, it helps release that. It also helps relieve feelings of stress or being overwhelmed. And exercise is just all around good for our mental and emotional health, especially when it comes to signs of depression. So whether that's going on a walk with your dog, whether that is going for a run, whether that's going to a gym, whether that's signing up for a class, whatever it is, moving your body has been shown and proven to help feelings of depression and help get us out of a depressive episode. So again, tip number 4 is exercise, move your body. The final tip I want to share with you guys, tip number 5, is practice gratitude. The art of gratitude is something that I have been learning about myself. It's something that I have been trying to be really intentional with. As somebody who struggles with seasonal depression, gratitude has been a game changer for me. Now, when it comes to gratitude, it's important to note that practicing gratitude does not negate the pain or the sadness or the heaviness that you are feeling. Practicing gratitude just helps shift our brain. It just helps shift the narrative and the perspective that we're seeing out of. When we're able to find a few things to be thankful for, when we're able to find and focus on a few things that we are grateful for, it helps us realize that yes, we may be in a heavy season. However, we also can recognize that there is good even in the pain, that there is good even in the ugly, that there is good even when we are struggling. Oftentimes, gratitude will increase feelings of happiness and make us feel more settled, and it will decrease feelings of depression because, again, what's happening is we're not necessarily ignoring the hard things or the heavy things, but it's helping shift our perspective and recognizing, although that's there's also a lot of good. And when we're able to recognize that in our brain, when we're able to practice seeing it and pointing it out, it helps us feel a lot more balanced, because what depression will do is often drown us in the feelings of everything's bad, everything's horrible, there is no point to this anymore. What gratitude will do is help keep us again afloat and recognizing that there are still good even in the midst of the heavy and hard things that we're experiencing. Gratitude can often be practiced in a practical way by literally just challenging yourself maybe every day of writing 3 to 5 things that you are grateful for. Even if it's as simple as, I have a roof over my head, I was able to get up today, even though I'm not feeling great, I was able to still get up. So again, all that to say, tip number 5 is practice some gratitude. Now, before we close out this video, I want to talk a little bit about depression and faith and my personal journey in it. As I've mentioned before, I have struggled with depression. I struggle with seasonal depression. Mine starts probably around August, September, that time frame. And it will last quite a few months. Now, I live in Florida, so it's not necessarily a weather thing. But for me, it's just something that I've noticed in the last couple years. And so I meet with a therapist and we talk about it. When I am feeling off, when I am maybe in a depressive episode, or when I'm just having a day that I'm feeling really down, what will often be super helpful for me is allowing myself just time alone with the Lord. My go-to scripture is always Psalms 23. For me, that idea of like, the Lord leads me beside still waters. Even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I fear no evil. It's just such a sweet and beautiful reminder for me that even in the heaviest and hard times, like I serve a God who's able to walk with me and who's able to comfort me and lead me and guide me. And it doesn't negate the fact that there are dark valleys. It doesn't negate the fact that there are hard things or big feelings or heavy feelings. But it just reminds me that I have a place to go to with those feelings. I have a place to surrender those feelings. Faith can often help the feelings of depression as well. Whether that's, again, finding some scripture to hold on to in the season that you're struggling, whether it's listening to worship music and allowing yourself just to soak in presence for a couple minutes. There's something powerful about the presence, and there's something powerful about leaning in to your faith when you're feeling overwhelmed by depression. And so that's kind of a little bit of a personal takeaway and a little personal touch that I wanted to share with you guys, because I think that's important as well. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, millions of Americans, and that's just Americans, millions and millions of people struggle with depression. Depression is valid. And I'm hoping that this video helps encourage, enlighten, and empower you in your journey of figuring out your depressive episodes. And I hope that these practical tools are helpful for you in maybe getting out of some of those depressive episodes, or that these tools are helpful in sharing with friends who may find themselves in a season of struggle. And again, I do want to note that this video is not meant to replace any kind of professional help, and it's not meant to diagnose. It's simply meant to inform and to empower you in your journey. If you have not yet, I would love for you to go ahead and join this family, and be sure to hit the subscribe button, that like button, and turn on your notifications. That way you guys are informed when brand new videos are out and ready for you to watch. As always, be sure to tune in next week for more mental and emotional health tips, tricks, and information. Until next time, guys.